Welcome back, friends, to TV5 News at 9. It is time now for Design Time. I'm here with Kathy Kilborn, Tri-City Furniture. How are you?
Doing good.
Great. We're so glad we're here. Make sure that you get your cell phone out because we do have that QR code right there on your screen and you can scan it for all of today's information. I want to talk about home furnishings. We've been talking with you about furnishings for such a long time now. Tell us a little bit, where's all that knowledge? People always ask me, she knows so much about furniture. Where does that come from?
Well, I have grown up in the furniture
Okay.
business, and mattresses have been an important part of the learning over the years. We've had American manufacturing around, plus the fact that we have manufacturers right here in Michigan. So it was easy to go to the factories and see how product is being made. And I've been doing this for over 45 years. So
Wow.
I do have a lot of knowledge on how things have changed over the years.
So you're definitely the person we want to get answers from when it comes to these.
Well,
Now we understand why you have so much knowledge.
Yeah, it's important to know the insides. You know, you're
Yeah.
buying a big old box
Ooh.
and you don't really know what's inside of a sofa or a sectional.
Yes.
And it's all about the inside as to why it will give you the comfort or will hold up in quality.
Yeah. Okay. So Kathy and I are taking a little break here on these mattresses. They're so comfortable. So tell us, what are the differences in springs? That's inside. You're talking about the inside.
Inside.
Right? Okay.
Yes, most people think that there are springs in furniture today, and there really can be a lot of things that don't have springs. So I kind of wanted to talk about the variables of springs because we're not really aware of what's going on. So we have a couple of options in springs. The first one I'm going to talk about is called the Bonnell coil, and it's an hourglass shape, so bigger on the top, bigger on the bottom, and tight through the middle. Now they can be taller, they can be shorter, but the concept is when we push down, these tight rings will actually have more pressure. And we found this style in mattresses that were made for years and years and were flippable. So the support on the top and the bottom was very consistent with padding over top. So this is usually used in a firmer kind of mattress because of pushing it down. Now we also have the Marshall coil. It is longer usually, and that has to do with making some of the mattresses a bit thicker. And it's different in that it's smaller on the top, smaller on the bottom, and big rings through the center. And these can have different rings. So we might have one that's 6 or 7, we might have one that's 5, depending on how much firmness and how much give. But so much easier to push together because I'm not binding here in the middle. Now we found that if they use this smaller coil, that they can put more of them in. And because it compresses more easily, if my arm goes down in the mattress, that coil will react and give me a better compression and cushioning so that I don't get a pressure point. So remember, on this coil, it's firmer and the coils are all hooked together. So we're going to always get a firmer feel with this type of coil.
Now I give another one. Right,
Well,
is the
same thing,
Okay.
but lighter weight,
Yeah.
less turns.
Okay.
So this one would be in a little softer mattress, easier to push down because there's less turns.
Oh, okay. So I understand how foam can really break down. What else do we need to know about coils?
Well, coils, the way that they're made and then the combination of what the padding is the key to understanding. So remember, we have the 3 styles. We have the firmer one, that's the Bonnell coil. We have the softer one, and it is usually smaller round. So you know, maybe on the first one we have 312 coils, and in this one we might have 800. So there is a difference in the amount, and then the weight of those are also different. So the weight of steel is hard for people to understand a little bit, but a lot of times in those steel coils, the weight of that spring is important. If I had a 15 gauge, it will push together pretty easy, but a 13 gauge will have more firmness. And I've seen 13 gauge springs in this coil, and they're a very, very hard mattress. Okay? Then we also can go right to a 1 gauge. And so I wanted to show you 1 gauge is like the thickness of a pencil. And you know, in the old days, we actually used that as a border wire. So there's a lot of difference in the weight of the steel and then the amount of the coil. So you don't know what's in these beds. That's really what gives us the support and the firmness and the quality for longevity, because all these beds are going to support body weight differently.
Okay, so I know, Kathy, that friends, I know you're thinking this. I know I'm thinking this right now. Which coil system is the best? Is there a better one?
Best again is what do you need?
What your needs are.
So the point here is if I maybe body weight is heavier, I need to support more weight, I might want to use a heavier steel and maybe the Bonnell coil because it doesn't compress as much. And people had mattresses 30, 40 years ago, they typically were firm because firm held up and we just thought firm was important. A question I might ask would be if we had, we went to a conference and we wanted to sit on a chair and we're going to sit there for a couple of hours. Would you pick a padded chair or would you pick the wood chair?
I like pad. Comfortable.
Exactly.
Yes.
So I always kind of compare that because we want comfort. If you're sitting in a wood chair, I see people moving. Because they're creating a pressure point and because of that hardness. So keep that in mind in a mattress. We need support, but we don't need hard. And that is two different things. When people say, I need a firm mattress, well, why do you need it? You know, well, they've many times come from something that has sagged and not held their body supportively. So it is key to have support. Then that combination of how the springs work and the padding, we have to know that to make it comfortable for our body.
And it's important that your body is comfortable because that's the way that you have that sound sleep, which is so
Absolutely.
important, right? You always talk about that, making sure you get your Z's.
Yes. And you know, the other thing about a bed would be make sure it has enough size. You know, if you're sleeping in a smaller bed, maybe a full size, and you have two adult bodies, there's going to be motion in that bed that may wake you up. If you can fit a king, you will have much more comfort because you're not close to that other person and their movement. Another thing I want to talk just quickly about in the springs, and I would think this would be a common thing, but in paper clips, and I have just a paper clip here, but if I bend that open and close, and I'm sure everybody's done that.
Yeah, always.
And
And
it snaps in two pieces.
Sure.
Okay? This is not tempered steel. Okay? But the thing that is tempered is a safety pin. I can open and close it a million times and it still works.
That's right.
Okay? Now I would think a spring would be made out of tempered steel, but some aren't. And so this up and down is for longevity and tempered. There are springs that eventually don't come back and will actually sometimes break. So a little detail adds cost, but important to know so that it lasts,
lasts.
over time.
That's a pretty important detail.
Yes.
Thank you.
And that can happen in
Yeah.
mattresses, in sofas.
Wow.
So there's a lot of things that we can say, yes, it has springs, but there's a little bit more to the weight, how they're supported, if they're tempered. Lots of little details that you may not realize
Yes.
make components to support your body.
We appreciate this valuable information, helping us understand the support systems that we definitely need to know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And thank you for watching this edition of Design Time.